Welcome to Chazin-the-Dream. I'm the host, Ethan Chazin. This is a podcast dedicated to amazing workplace cultures. And in this episode, which is season 2, episode 9, I am absolutely thrilled to have with us today as our guest on the program, Joe Damiano. Joe is named SAX LLP's managing partner back in 2015. He's responsible for leading SAX's strategic growth initiatives, staff development, and the overall management of the firm. He has over 20 years with demonstrated expertise in accounting, auditing, tax, and advisory services, and he works to guide his firm's members and future partners towards specialized knowledge and proactive advisory work. Prior to his current role as managing partner, Joe was the partner in charge of the firm's rapidly growing construction practice, and he partnered with general contractors and heavy highway and specialty trade construction firms to build more profitable and efficient businesses. Joe also served as partner in charge of marketing with the firm and business development head. In the leadership role there, he was responsible for the upwards direction of the firm and effectively expanding its reach and its suite of service. He currently sits on the firm's executive and compensation committees. Joe is a certified public accountant in New Jersey, a resident of Warren Township, and he enjoys spending time with his family, playing golf, and he's an avid New York Yankees fan. Welcome to the program, Joe. So, Joe, welcome to Chazin-the-Dream. I'm so excited to have you on. I've been meaning to get you on the program for a while, but thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So, I'm diving right into the deep end, and we'll see if there's water there. You and I have talked before, and the amount of growth you've achieved, it's mind-boggling. The last 5 years, tripling your revenue, acquiring 4 firms in the last year, and plans to quadruple revenue growth in the next 5 years. And I got to just stop and ask, with all of that amazing growth, how do you and your leadership team focus on the culture at SAX and maintain all of the amazing values, your vision? Well, how do you do that?
Well, I think the good news for a lot of the leadership here in the firm is most of us grew up in the firm. So when it was a smaller firm, I've been at the firm for 29 years. I came right out of school. A lot of my leadership team is a similar to me. Joe Shannon was probably the elder statesman on my board of directors. He's probably been at the firm 32 years. He's the only one that's been here longer, but the rest of our executive committee basically started their careers out of school here. So they've kind of grown up in this culture, grown up in the SAX way of doing things. And as we've just infused a lot of growth, which quite frankly probably has been more organic growth than merger and acquisition growth. There's been a combination of it, but we took a $25 million firm when I took over the leadership in the firm back in 2016, and we took a $25 million firm and now made it $110 million, and only $30 million of that was acquisition growth. The rest of it has been through organic growth. So it's a little easier when you're doing organic growth to create culture and to keep that culture. But we are very cognizant of how do we keep the same culture that we've had. We're trying to basically take this big firm philosophy now, which has more of a corporate feel to it, of course, but still remain to our corporate value, our core values of commitment, excellence, respect, integrity, and don't allow us to get away from that just to grow. It's like we do growth the right way. We don't want to just grow to grow. I could be a $300 million firm if I grabbed every firm that was out there.
Right.
We're very specific who we do merger and acquisition. We're very specific and intentional when we actually interview lateral partners of whether we think they'll fit in with the group to make sure, because the partners are the one that are ultimately going to drive the culture of the practice. So even I'm probably too involved, but I'm very involved in lateral partner coming into the firm. And we've grabbed a bunch of talent in the last 18 months as well. We probably had about 7 lateral partners that came from other firms that didn't want to go the private equity route and wanted to go to a more traditional firm like ours. So, but I do a lot of the interviewing on that side, not from a technical perspective, because I don't really have that technical ability anymore that I used to when I was a practicing partner, but from just a pure, are they going to fit in? Do they have the right values? I ask them specific questions about how they would deal with situations so that we know or at least we believe we're getting the right cultural fit for our firm. But even when I'm doing the interviews on the merger and acquisitions, that's a lot of what I say. It's culture, economics. So it's culture of their firms, which is never going to be identical. But do the partners that are going to remain have at least a buy-in to what our culture is going to be and what their roles are going to be with the firm? And then it's thirdly economics. And if one of those little legs fall down, I typically pass on a deal, and I'll pass on at least 11 out of 12 deals these days when I'm looking at deals. It's not, and we don't do every deal that we look at.
And that's so critically important, is the fit in terms of all the stakeholders that you consider bringing in. So you grow to 53 partners, you grow to 370 plus employees, and you said something that really kind of struck me. Most of your partners kind of growing up at SAX and learning how to do it the SAX way. What does that encompass when you talk about, things like respect, integrity, commitment, excellence? What does it actually look like when you're interviewing people or you're making those lateral partnership? How do you actually vet people regardless of their relationship with you based on those values?
Yeah, I think what I typically say to people is, listen, we're sitting amongst the four walls more today with your work employees than you do with your family. So we got to make sure we create a family atmosphere so that it's a good place to come. We don't want people yelling and screaming around the office. We obviously want to give good and constructive feedback so people can continue to grow in their careers. But we want to be respectful of each other, and we want to build a family culture as much as we can so that we enjoy each other's company, and I think that's, you got to drive it at the partner level first, so then they drive it down to the rest of the firm. And, one of the things, a consultant had come in a couple of years ago to do a retreat, very well known in the accounting firm industry. And he says, it's pretty funny coming to your firm, in that he always asks two questions when he goes to these retreats. And number one, how many partners are under the age of 50 years old? And he says, 50+% of the hands go up in the practice, because that's just the reality of our practice these days. And then secondly, says, I spent 2 days with you guys and gals, and you seem to actually enjoy each other's company. It's pretty weird. So, so most accounting firms just kind of get together, but you guys actually enjoy each other's company. And I look at, we just came out of our leadership summit last week, and we spent 2.5 days together. And that, as I told my partners and my leadership team, that is all about building camaraderie and building that family culture for the practice. It's not, yes, we're going to talk about strategic vision of the firm, and we're going to talk about where the growth is going to be, and we're talking about making sure we plug the holes where we need to plug the holes. But that's more of a presentation that we're giving back to the partners. It's not like the old days when we were a small firm and we'd sit around a table and make decisions at these strategic retreats. Today, it's more leadership saying, all right, here's the direction that the firm is going to go. So then what is the retreat about? The retreat is about driving the camaraderie and the relationships amongst partners that may not sit in the same office anymore. That's the other big phenomenon that we have going on.
Right.
Culturally, we have to figure out how we drive culture, not only in a couple of offices that we have. We have 50 plus employees that are not in the tri-state area, so we rarely see them except on the screen like we're talking today. And then we have 45 plus people in India that we have. So we're trying to drive cultures on different continents as well. So I think when we look at it, it's driving those same values, whether you're talking to somebody on the screen or talking to somebody face to face. And it starts at the top. Tone starts at the top. Culture starts at the top. We have to drive the culture. If you have this culture of, we don't break our core values: respect, integrity, commitment, and excellence. We don't break respect and integrity when we're talking with our people. And if you let partners break that, then you have a breakdown in the system of culture. So I'm kind of, they kid around with me and say I'm Thor from the Marvel shows, in that I have the Thor hammer, that if somebody does step out of line, I have to go and reprimand a partner, and I'm not allowed it to happen. Not that happens really anymore. It's probably more with the older generation, was slightly different tolerance for this kind of thing. But in today's environment, you can't have that. So, when you have remote people that are out there, you can't allow a partner to step over the line with one of our remote people because they'll leave in an instant because they don't have that connection sometimes that they have to the office when we're sitting here amongst the four walls. The other thing we do is we have a major family picnic in the middle of the year. We'll have it in a couple of weeks, actually. It'll be in July. And what I've been doing is actually bringing in the families of these individuals that are outside of the tri-state area. And when discussing this with my HR department, the reality is if I'm going to have my 13-year-old twin daughters at the picnic and it's a family picnic, then the families of all these individuals that work for the firm that are outside the tri-state area have to be brought in so that they could experience the same family picnic as everybody else. Because if I brought a remote employee in and maybe only allowed them to bring their significant other, then they wouldn't feel like it's a family picnic. So we want to drive culture as a family-oriented organization, and that's part of what we do to do that.
I hear you speak so often in our conversations and other people I've spoken to about your leadership style, about the value or, excuse me, the importance of, as you continue to grow strategically, but maintain that culture. I hear a lot from you and others about the need to communicate. And when you talked about a virtual workforce, 50 out of state, 45 in India, I'm guessing that now more than ever, the ability to keep people connected to the SAX culture, that sounds more and more important, especially as you continue to grow through organic, but also, merger activity.
Well, I try to stay connected. So I usually, for the offices that we actually have, with the exception of maybe Mumbai, India, because that's a little bit longer of a commute, I do try to get to the offices. New York City office, which is my second largest office, I'm in that office probably once a week. Office in Princeton, New Jersey, I'm probably in that office once a month. But I try to stay connected to those offices to make sure that I'm at least driving the presence. And really, what is my reason for being there? Yeah, I'll have a few meetings here and there, but it's really to go around and talk to people, say hello to people, make sure that people understand that I have that open door policy for them to come and speak to me too when I'm going through those meetings. But the other thing that we do at a partner level, we tell our partners, and we just experienced this in Chicago. We were out the week before our leadership summit at a leadership conference for our alliance, and I had 9 of my C-suite, and it was in Chicago. And we actually had 2 people that live right in the area of Chicago that are remote employees. So we had them come in and they took them out for dinner or for some drinks that week.
A C-suite meeting.
We try to say to any partners, all right, you going on vacation to Florida. We got 11 employees in Florida. Depending on where you're at, maybe try to connect with one of the folks and just have some conversation with them. Take them out for a drink, have a cup of coffee, take them out to dinner, whatever that is. I know you're on vacation with your family, but this is part of the responsibility of having a firm that's maybe it's more regionalized when it comes to the revenue, but it's more national when it comes to where our employees are. So if you're traveling, when you do travel, try to hook up with the individuals that were there. We did that one time we were in Texas, where we had about 4 employees in our Texas in Texas that we were staying at a conference, and we got together with those folks. So we try to do that as much as we can. It's part of driving that culture. But as the firm gets larger and as it has more and more pieces, it does get harder and harder. So you have to be more intentional about doing it. Otherwise, you'll lose it.
And that's something that you've reinforced for me a few times is the intentionality of it. I mean, your culture evolves organically, even if you don't touch it. So you might as well be intentional and kind of be strategic how you grow it. You had actually shared with me something that I was hoping you could spend a few minutes talking about, was part of the culture, part of the values, or part of your ongoing people development is the notion that you have an expectation that your people evolve and that they grow with you. Can you talk a little bit about what that means and what's the importance for you as you look to grow in the future with having your people who want to evolve and want to grow with you?
What I always say, and I have, back to your point of staying connected, we have town hall meetings once a quarter where I speak to the entire staff to make sure that they give them an idea of what's going on at the practice. Even though there's a lot of growth, that growth creates opportunity for everybody. So I look at it and say, all right, I was a kid out of college, started at the firm as a junior accountant, worked my way up to become a partner in 9 years. And by the time I got to partner 14 years later, 13 years later, whatever it was, I was the CEO and managing partner. And within that, I grew into the marketing leader at the firm at one point, and then I grew into taking over the construction niche of the firm before I became managing partner CEO. So there was a lot of opportunity. So when I speak to my team, I always talk about opportunity, because growth sometimes scares people. Oh, growth means more work. Growth means more work. So we try to talk about, yes, we understand it means more work, but the firm is very intentional about looking forward to what growth is going to be, because we track all of this stuff. And then we say, all right, we have to hire based on what the growth, we believe the growth is going to be, because we don't want to overburden our existing team. But I think we talk, whenever I speak to growth, I always talk to opportunity as well. So I want to give everybody, and I say this all the time, the same opportunity that I was given. You start at the firm and you have an aspiration of being a partner, I want to get you there as fast as possible. If you have an aspiration of just being a director or senior manager, that's fine too. We want to get you there as fast as possible. As fast as you want to grow is as fast as we will help you get there. And that's kind of become the philosophy and culture of the practices. We're making partners in 9, 10, 11 years. Some of our team is maybe 30, 31 years old, only 10, 11 years out of school, and they're becoming a partner already. And part of that is because it takes a little while to really evolve and understand what it means to be a partner. So we want to get them into the system as fast as possible. We're growing at a 15, 16% organic clip each year. It's creating an opportunity for 4, 5, 6 new partners every single year. So we have to keep the funnel going with the pipeline to make sure that they're evolving as fast as they can. The ones that want to become partner, we need to get them up to partner that much faster. But that's part of the process. I want to give everybody the same ability and opportunity to go as fast and as high as they want to go within our practice. There's no reason for them to leave SAX. They're in a top 100 accounting firm now. If they like this as a profession and this is what they want to do for a career and they want to become a partner, then why leave SAX? Just stay here your entire career. Most of the leadership committee, as I said, has been here pretty much from day one when they got out of college. So,
and that's really interesting to me, is the notion of what you just said. There's no reason to leave SAX if you're the kind of person who's so intrinsically motivated that they want to kind of take ownership of their career and their professional development. And they say, if it takes me a decade to become partner, I know that that's an option, because not only did I see Joe do it and the other partners, but I know it's a value of the organization. I mean, I know just doing research on SAX, how focused you are on employee, the on-the-job training, professional development. So a lot of millennials would say, I don't see an opportunity for me to get to partner track. I'm going to take all of my experience and leave. But you're saying no. If they have what it takes, there are going to be paths for them. And I guess I have a curiosity about something that isn't exactly a core value, but I kind of think it is in a way. And I'd love to know your thought. Like, as I was looking at your vision and your mission and kind of the language you use with specific intent through your marketing, is to become the client's number one advisor, right? By understanding their vision and by providing them with the solutions that they need to assure their success. How do you recruit for that? How do you train and develop for that? Because that seems like a really powerful value proposition to make your organization brand extremely appealing.
Yeah, and I think we are an evolving profession, number one, and even SAX is evolving into this number one advisor. The reality is technical people, as great as they are and as important they are to the organization, as artificial intelligence hits our profession and our firms and our lives, the technical side of it becomes that less and less important. So what becomes important then? Being the number one advisor then becomes important. Adding value through other means than just being technical becomes more important. So how do we drive the number one advisor side of it? We call it little C, big C, meaning little C consulting, big C consulting. So you got big C consulting, that's larger consulting engagement, maybe doing Six Sigma, things like that, where you're really driving on efficiencies and things like that within our practice. But the little C is just the normal day-to-day stuff that you're dealing with clients, being that number one advisor. The client, we don't want just our clients to come to us with tax and accounting issues. We want them to come to us for everything. That's what the number one advisor piece of it. So how do you train for that? You train for that by having the folks that do it really well, because not everybody does it well, but the ones that do it well, you have to have them train and share experiences and bring their team members along and have them, we've actually set up codes within our practice so that we have people that are basically working side by side with the partner to make sure that we're making that the partners are actually taking people out to clients. So it is important for us to be intentional again about doing things to help people become this number one advisor. We also, probably about 6-7 years ago, we set up what we call a pathway to success within our practice. And the pathway was there more for teaching soft skills. It had a lot of sessions on, they get all the technical training that they're going to get through the firm. They all get the tax training. They all get auditing training if they're auditing.
Right.
They all get consulting training on the consulting side. But what happens with this piece that you need to learn to be an advisor? Sometimes you don't learn that in a classroom. And most times you're not learning that through technical. So what we're trying to do is teach it through what we call the pathway and teach them even soft skills on sales or soft skills on how to deal with a difficult conversation you need to have with a client. I think there's one coming up this month actually on giving feedback to our younger generation as difficult feedback. So how do you deliver the message? So we're giving them these soft skills that hopefully will help them evolve into advisors. And some of those trainings are actually done by me and some of my leadership committee, because they happen to be the best advisors that we have. And then we're just telling stories about how we dealt with situations. This is what you do. That's what you do. How do you deal with a client that wants this? And it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight, but it definitely is a process. But I think I am very intentional about saying mission, vision, core values at every single meeting that I have. So whether it's a partner meeting, whether it's I have manager meetings, because I want to keep my hands in what's going on with my manager group and senior manager group within our team. And then we also have the town halls on a quarterly basis. And we talk about the number one advisor and what that means and how ties. So you have to add value in other ways. You can't be stale. You can't live like it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. The world changed very quickly. To evolve and change with that world.
And that's such a really critically important point from my observation, talking to hundreds of firms. They have this really it's really an aggressively hostile perspective in terms of Gen Zs and younger millennials. When you talk to them about them coming into the workforce and lacking the soft skills, the professional skills, they say these young professionals don't have those skills, but they don't do anything within their culture to identify the ability to train those folks. And it's just amazing to me that you've got this kind of institutionalized as part of your coaching and mentoring.
Well, I think the firm was always about that. That's where the old culture what I grew up in was being an advisor to clients. That's how I learned it from some of the really good retired partners now that I grew up under. And we want to give back to that same community of younger gen to do it. I mean, it's funny, if you look at the generations, and I've kind of lived through a few of them now, and I'm an Xer, so I was a new partner in the firm, and I remember the baby boomers busting my chops a little bit saying, hey, because I wanted to get home to see my daughters dancing their first recital, or I wanted to be home to see them come home from school the first day of school, the first grade or kindergarten, and they would give me a hard time about it, saying, give me a break. We never did that. Just get to work and do what you got to do. And they would give me a hard time because I'm an Xer, instead of their philosophy of how to do business. And I think now even this next generation is evolving into this hybrid work environment and want to be more remote, want to have more flexibility. And, whether it's good or bad, it's indifferent. It's the way the world goes today. And we have to evolve with that world and continue to change, because if you're going to drive a culture that you want people to be agreeable with and want to stay with the firm, then you have to evolve with what the workforce is that's out there. And that's why today, we don't really have any rule. The old firm used to be, I remember when I grew up in it, it was, we had to work 3 nights a week during busy season. We'll come in on a Saturday. Today, it's just get your work done. I mean, we don't really care. We're not.
Get your work done.
It's like, here's the work that you have in front of you. Make sure you get it done. I would prefer that you try to spread it out instead of getting these time frames where we have these deadlines because we are a very deadline driven organization, just from the nature of what it is. But it has to be more flexible. It has to be that hybrid. I call it a hybrid remote environment. And that's what we have today. And that's why when COVID hit and we were working from home for almost a year, probably, we didn't open back the office. It's probably a little less than a year. We saw that it worked, that the remote force worked. We went from an environment that we were 99.9% of our people were in one of the offices 5 days a week plus Saturday during tax season.
Right.
I turned a switch with HR and said, all right, just find me wherever the talent resides, hire the talent. And that's why we've evolved into 50 people outside of the tri-state area, that now we have a full remote hybrid. Those are full remote employees, not even hybrids. They don't even come to the office except on occasion when we bring them in for some kind of occasion. So.
And that's honestly what struck me. I was kind of looking through. You do this periodic, like, welcome new hires, and I was looking at the backgrounds of the candidates who have recently joined SAX, and I have to tell you how amazed I was at the background, the diversity. I mean, sure, geographically they mirrored what you said in terms of locationality, but they were so diverse in their backgrounds, their courses, their cultural diversity. I was, like, really surprised. And I'm curious to what extent you say you hire the talent wherever they are, but is that part of the kind of calculus for SAX?
I don't even know if that's so intentional. I look at it and say, wherever we can find talent, we're in a talent shortage period in the accounting profession right now. So when I talk with HR and when I talk to recruiters, wherever the talent resides, we hire the talent. There's no intentional reason why we hire this one over this one. If we believe culturally they will fit in, typically we're allowing our people at some point to interview folks, even at the college level, when we're bringing them in, to see if culturally these folks are going to fit in with the organization, even at that level. So I think we're very intentional about just trying to make sure that personality-wise, that people fit in with our firm. That's, to me, there's a lot of talented people out there. And I think part of why we've been successful in this remote environment is maybe it's our geographic area that our rate structure is a little higher than the rest of the country, because where we live from a cost of living perspective. So we could go into pretty much any state in the United States and pull somebody out of there and probably give them a raise, and it's still less than what we pay here in the New Jersey, New York City tri-state area. So we have that advantage that we're taking. So let's get the best candidate, personality-wise and technical-wise, and bring in the talent where it resides. And that was where that grew from.
And I sense a strong kind of transition here from your mindset about hiring top talent wherever they are, and you talk about differences in terms of compensation. So, but it's really, as you said, getting the best people, because there is a war on talent. I feel like that maps to your aspirational statement, or what your core values around the pursuit of excellence, because my understanding of the way SAX looks at that is do the right thing for our clients, do the right thing for our firm, and do the right thing for our people. And I'm curious how that specific value, that, how do you kind of make sure that that's front and center in the culture of when you hire the right people, that they do the right things for the firm and they do the right things for your clients? As you said, nowadays, servicing clients becomes more and more important.
Well, I think it comes back to tone from the top. So at the top, the partners are driving that culture down to the managers, and the managers on a day-to-day basis are driving it down to our team members. And that's what's driving culture overall. Whether you're remote, whether you're in India, whether you're here in the New York City tri-state area, we're all driving towards the same, which is to create a client experience that's a good client experience while growing in our careers and evolving. And I go back, I tell my team all the time, and I use Kobe Bryant as a great example of somebody who, and we actually showed the Kobe Bryant video of an interview that he had done at our leadership summit. And his philosophy was, if everybody had a practice to get to game time, but if he woke up at 3 a.m. and practiced from 4 to 5, and then rested, had some breakfast, got back at it at 11 to 12, then rested, had some lunch, got back at it from 2 to 3, then rested, then maybe had a little snack in between, and then got back at it from 5 to 7, and then rested and had dinner. He practiced 4 times instead of the normal person that might have got up at 11 o'clock, maybe went to practice at 1, practiced from 1 to 2, then had some lunch, rested a little bit, then practiced from 4 to 5, then had some dinner, and then they only got 2 sessions. So I say the same thing to my people. I use that example and say, I know people don't, sometimes they get scared, they don't want to work all these hours, but the more you put into your profession, the more you're going to get out of it. If you're a person that wants to charge forward fast and you want to be a 9-year person that gets to partner level, you have to pick up the years by adding some more hours. So if the normal person in our firm has 1,300 charge hours or 1,400 charge hours, and you're putting in 1,700 or 1,800, in 2 to 3 years, you've just surpassed that person in a year. So you're gaining an extra year of experience every time you do that. You're gaining an extra year of life experience every time you add another 300 to 400 hours to your schedule. So it's up to them. They may not want that as part of their life, but if they want to get there fast, it's not going to be just handed to them. I still want to see them excel and succeed.
And, the whole notion of the Kobe Bryant being asked about the practice and being asked about what drives him. And, even the hat tip that he, in interviews, he used to make to, the great one, to Air Jordan, talking about how intrinsically motivated those kind of people are. Is that kind of what you look for in your recruiting, is when you're doing the interviewing process, you look for examples in people who have kind of gone above and beyond, whether it's an Eagle Scout or somebody who's kind of taken extra classes or they've learned extra skills that normally you wouldn't, is that kind of what you look for?
I don't think we have that ability to do that. I think the ones that I agree with that statement that I love kids or individuals that have come out and played college sports or played competitively in something, because I think they have a little bit more of that competitive.
Baseball.
I played baseball in college, all throughout high school. So I think you have a little bit of that competitive edge when you do that. You do want to go faster. You do want to succeed faster. But I don't think we interview for it. I think if I'm interviewing, when I'm talking to partner level people, I might be asking those kind of questions. But at the lower levels, I don't think they're asking those questions.
Okay. Joe, we've covered so much ground today, and I just really appreciate you giving us this opportunity. And I guess before I let you go, I would ask, if somebody kind of came to you and said, I'm looking to start, or I'm kind of growing my business, do you have one tip for me in terms of the things you've done throughout your 29 years in your career that you would say, this is what you need to make sure your organization's doing to ensure you built a great culture? Or is there no secret sauce?
Yeah, I just think it's being consistent year after year. I demanded people to work hard because I always worked hard. You have to lead by example. So I believe as long as you lead by example and show people. Now, if you're telling our folks, or you're telling people in your organization, I want you to work hard and I want you to stay at night and then you're out of here at 5 o'clock, then that's not leading by example. So you can't expect your people to do that if you're unwilling to do it. So I always try to outwork everybody so that I created what I wanted the culture to be, is a fast charging, opportunistic place for you to make a great career for yourself. And that's why I always say, create growth, creates opportunity, and everybody can get fed off of that. And if you're going to start your organization, you got to lead by example, and you got to lead by showing people what it is that it is to be the leader of an organization. I look at my partners all the time, and when they tell me, oh, I don't have time to do billing, or oh, I don't have time to do my timesheet, or I don't have time to do my staff evaluations. And the one thing that I always have over them as the CEO of the business is that I was a line partner. I know what it was to do that. I had
know
to
exactly what it takes.
I knew what it took. And I had a pretty big book, usually bigger than they had. So I knew what it was to deal with the client side, deal with all the staff people that I had to deal with, do the evaluations, do the timesheets, do the billing. And I never complained. I just did it. And I think that is something that you have to have as the leader. Lead by example and drive it down.
Joe, thank you. I mean, words of wisdom pretty much for anybody at any point in their career, especially those who aspire to lead. So if somebody were interested in learning more about, as you said, the SAX way of doing things, how might they get more information?
Well, I think, they could always call me. I mean, that's always probably the best way to get that information.
Okay.
We have a full marketing staff here. I would call the office line here in the office, and you could ask for Leon Grassi, who's our chief marketing officer, chief revenue officer, and he's usually pretty good at figuring out, depending on what your need is, where you should go within our practice. So.
Okay, and I'll be sure to put the link to the website and your core values in the description below. But Joe, thank you so much for coming on Chazin-the-Dream. I really appreciate all of your insights on what it takes to grow and maintain a really amazing culture at SAX LLP.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.